gamers, I am here in front of you today on YouTube and on Twitch, and I am here to give my official statement. I have played Age of Mythology for about 100 hours before the tournaments. Right now it is Sunday evening. We got 1,500 people on Twitch watching me, listening to me yap about this. So what I'm going to talk about is my experience with AoM, the tournament I just participated in, the qualifier for the RedBull, and just general feeling about the game. And if I'm going to be playing Age of Empires 4 or Age of Mythology. I'm going to be very honest. So I need you to hold on to your chairs if you're from AOE4, and I need you to hold on to your chairs if you're from AoM. This is a genuine opinion coming from someone who has played AoM as a kid, like campaigns and stuff, but has not played AoM competitively. And for those that don't know, I played AoM, I think just before the qualifier started on Saturday. I had 97 hours playtime. So that's what I had in about 2 weeks. I had to take 4 days off in those 2 weeks to play AOE4 tournaments. So I got 97 hours of practice. And I have peaked at rank 27 on the ladder in the world in those 2 weeks, or those 97 hours played. The learning curve was very, very rough, but let's get started from the beginning. About 3 months ago, I think I talked with Marine Lord about this. I found out there's AoM alpha going on, and we asked for keys, and we did not get them. And then, obviously, we knew there's going to be AoM at RedBull. So then, 40-ish days ago, I find out that the people who have participated in the alpha can play qualifiers. And some players did not receive the alpha, some players did, which I thought was pretty weird, because there's been players that have been playing alpha for about 6 months and they're allowed to participate in the tournaments, and then the rest of us plebs got about 2 weeks to prepare for the tournament. That's it, right? So basically I'm competing against the guys who've been playing for 6 months. About 40 days before the release of the game, I messaged again, the people in charge, and I said, hey, I know there's alpha going, right? Could I get the key, because I actually want to try and qualify for AoM RedBull? And like, it's kind of unfair that there's this tournament 2 weeks after the release where people that have tested the alpha for 6 months can play in the tournament, but the rest of us can't. Like, that's just weird, right? And it's kind of unfair, because usually in these games, usually in gaming, people who participate in alpha versions of the game cannot play tournaments, right? I got no response, and I was super hyped for AoM, like genuinely. I was like, man, it's gonna be so fucking cool. We're gonna all start playing, and we're gonna have 2 weeks to see who can prepare the most, because I just assumed that those guys cannot play in the tournament. So as the day was approaching, I actually thought about not playing AoM at all. That's how much it affected my hype for the game, because one of the things I talked about before, one of the coolest things about new RTS game coming out, and yes, this is retold, it's a remake, whatever, but a lot of things are changed and stuff like that. One of the coolest things about new RTS game for me is when you have people from StarCraft and people from AoE2 and people from AoE4 and original AoM players all competing and seeing who's gonna come on top. Like, I think that's really cool. And it's one of the coolest things about, like, when Stormgate came out, there was like players from every game, and everyone was like, who's gonna come on top? And I thought that was really cool. Now, I didn't think I would qualify for AoM, by the way. Like, even if the game was even for everyone playing field, the AoM guys, even though the game has changed, they have a lot more knowledge, and I expected them to qualify anyway. But the hype was kind of killed for me in a pretty big way, right? In a pretty massive way. Because I just wanted to see how good I can get in 2 weeks and if I can even do something against these guys, right? And then it's like when the release comes, they've already been playing for 6 months. And you know, some people are like, oh yeah, but I only played a month. Other people are, oh, I only played 2 months. I only played 50 games. You know, yeah, I played only 0 games, right? So that kind of thing, even though I wasn't gonna qualify, it just kind of, you know, put a little damp on the whole thing for me. Because it's like, okay, I'm gonna go all out for 2 weeks for something I have absolutely no chance qualifying for, right? Absolutely no chance. To the guy who said, didn't you play AOE4 DLC before everyone too? Yes, so did every other top player in AOE4. Over 60 top players had access to it, so different situation. To me, the fun was just like all-time low. So I actually did not plan to play AoM after that. And a week before it, I was talking to Mareka, for those that don't know, my wife, and I was like, you know what, I'll play it, fuck it. I want to try it at some point anyway. Might as well just play it on the official release, try to learn, and it's gonna be cool. Even though I have absolutely 0 chance to qualify, it's gonna be cool to just try it out and see how good I can get in 2 weeks. Like, see if I can beat a top player here and there, right? So I did that, and I streamed. Pretty much, I played 10 days, I think, total, and I streamed 10 hours every single day. Every single time I did stream, I streamed about 10 hours. So I tried, and the first couple of days were me learning about like how counters work. Like, still to this day, I'm like reading the abilities because there's so much stuff. For example, in AOE4, you have like Spearman, Archer, and you have Horseman. Spearman kills Horseman, Horseman kills Archer, Archer kills Spearman. It's very intuitive, right? You have armored units, you have crossbows that are anti-armored units. Again, very intuitive. In AoM, it's a lot more complicated. So the learning process for me took a lot longer because as someone who has not played it, the counters are more complicated and less intuitive for a new player. So I'll give you an example. In most games that I've played, RTS games, ranged units have ranged attack or like pierce damage. In AoM, that's not true. Ranged units do have pierce damage, but some ranged units have hack damage, which is what melee units do. So it took me like 8 or 9 days to figure out that one of the Norse gods' ranged units actually do hack damage. Because to me that makes no sense, right? It's like, there's melee damage, there's range damage, but this ranged unit deals actually melee damage, right? So it's just the different way the game works. And then, you know, you have heroes, you have myth units, and then you have percentage of armor. So the unit doesn't have like X armor, it has percentage, so it's a damage reduction. Then it took me a while to realize. So again, spearmen in AOE4, they all counter cavalry. In AoM, it's a bit different. The Norse spearman unit counters cavalry, but then the Egyptian and the Greek don't. They're like a soft counter. Like, they're gonna win, but barely, kind of thing. They don't really butcher, you know, horses. So that's something that I also was kind of caught off guard. So every ranged unit in H2 has different damage, and it counters a different thing. So some civs, for example, Egyptian doesn't have a ranged anti-infantry unit in second age. The ranged unit counters other ranged units. So there's a lot of these intricacies that you gotta learn. And if you open, what's it called? If you open learn and you open, tech tree, not only you have to learn all these different god powers and abilities and bonuses for each god and shit, you also gotta learn what does that unit counter, what is that good against, and so on. Now, part of the things that I said is not intuitive is I think StarCraft does this really well. StarCraft units, the way they work is light units are small units. Light units are fast units. Light units are thin units. They don't have a lot of armor. So it's very easy. It's very intuitive. You see a fast unit, you know it's a light unit. It's not an armored unit, right? Big units and slow units are armored units, right? It's very, very simple. You don't need to know what that unit does if you see it's got like shield and shit, it's an armored unit. So you need to build anti-armor against it. In AoM, that's different. Melee unit doesn't always get countered by ranged units, which is how it works in AOE4. Usually, melee units get countered by ranged units. Well, there are some units that are very tiny, but they're actually anti-ranged, even though they're a melee unit. So you cannot learn by looking or watching and observing. You actually have to know the stats. It is not very intuitive for the new players. I think it's very cool. Like, all those systems are very cool, by the way. I don't dislike them, right? I think they're very cool, and there adds a lot of like counter depth and shit. I'm just saying, as a new player, it's very overwhelming to learn when you start playing. So there's a lot of that in game. Also, all the units in the game require gold, which took me a lot to get used to. You know, you gotta learn new victory conditions, so on and so forth. So, over the period of those 2 weeks, I was trying to learn as much as I can. I think I started with Egyptians, or I started with Greeks maybe, and then Egyptians, and then I played Norse, and I like looked through Atlanteans. And it was very clear to me by the end of the first week that I absolutely have no chance of like doing something in the tournament. But like I said, I decided to push for the top rank in the game, right, to see how far I can get, because I thought that was yeah, like I said, it's a challenge for myself. At that point, it wasn't even about trying to qualify, because, yeah. So I was learning literally every day. There was something, you know, new where I'm like, oh, I didn't know about that, I didn't know about this. I started beating some of the top players. Like I said, I peaked the rank 27 in the world. I had beaten some, like, top and OG players. Obviously, if we played a best of 5, they would fucking destroy me. But, you know, I started taking games here and there off of them in, like, close games, micro games, macro games, whatever. So that was like kind of cool, even though I know ladder is not the same as tournament. And again, if we played in a tournament, these guys would fucking destroy me, right? Because they understand the game a lot more. So I ended up playing a lot of 2TC and rushing to H3, which apparently was the opposite of the meta. The meta is kind of like, if you play AOE4, the meta is actually very similar to AOE4, funnily enough. The meta is kind of like fighting in second age, and then once you gain some kind of advantage, you age up, and then you crap on them with age 3 god power. That's kind of the meta that a lot of the top level players are doing. And yeah, I kind of just practiced the wrong thing, but even if I did practice the right thing, I think I was way too far behind on too many things to even have a chance. So that's kind of the background of it. By the way, these things that I said, I'm not saying they're negative about the game. I'm giving you a perspective as a new player, someone who has not played AoM since I was like fucking, I don't know how young, and now playing it again. It is very difficult to get into, because I see myself as someone who learns very quickly, especially because I've been playing RTS games my whole life. I've been competing in RTS games. I learn very quickly. I have played 97 hours of AoM with the sole purpose of learning. I did not goof around. I did not play like troll games or something. I was learning every game. I still don't know probably about 20% of what the god powers actually do / how they work. I probably don't know about 15 to 20% of units of what they actually do. I probably don't know about 30% of the upgrades that exist in the game, how much they cost, what they actually do. Like this one, for example, I got no fucking clue what it does. Okay, there we go. This one, no clue what it does. This one, no clue what it does, right? So there's a lot of these upgrades that I just still don't know after playing the game for 97 hours. And I have not played Atlanteans at all, right? I've entered 2 games. I have played against them, but I don't know any build order, nothing with them. So, as someone who is, again, you know, an advanced RTS player, I have played for 97 hours, and I feel I probably got another 100 until I actually learn everything there is to learn. Not to be a pro gamer, but to just learn what I consider to be basics, to know what things do, right? So it's a very overwhelming amount of information. Yeah, so one day before the tournament, the tournament was on Saturday. One day before a tournament, and you know, this is not Red Bull's fault. There is a patch. that changes a lot of things. And it nerfs all the gods that I was decent with. It like butchered them. It buffed Atlanteans, which I didn't play at all. Which again, by the way, it had nothing to do with how well I did in the tournament. I did not do well. I would have gotten fucked anyway, so that is irrelevant. But I'm just sitting there on Friday, and I'm like, bro, I barely learned what the game is. And why are they doing a balance patch one day before the tournament? So I play a few games, and I'm like, oh, fuck it. Like, I cannot retain the information that I've gotten so far. I cannot retain new information that I haven't even played with. So I just say, fuck it. I go offline. I wake up the next day. I get on my computer, and I see an at everyone in the RedBull Discord. Apparently, we gotta play on a separate branch, which, wait for this, there has been another patch 3 hours before the tournament. And I'm just like, I started laughing. I'm like, what the fuck is happening? Again, this is not RedBull's fault. Obviously, they're not the ones dictating when the patch is gonna happen. But very weird, but something that I have also experienced in AOE4, doing these like terrible patches in the middle of the tournament or just before the tournament. So I'm not shocked, again, I've seen it, but it is very fucking weird. I want to say again, it did not influence how well I did, because I would have done bad either way. I feel bad for some of the players that have been playing for like a long time, and now this patch just fucks everything up the day before the tournament, right? But it is what it is. The tournament itself, was fine. I think the system they used was a really good system, like a really used drafting system. Wasn't really good for me because I didn't know how to play every god, but I think it was the best system to figure out who the best two players are, so they can advance. So I thought the rules and everything were great. There was a lot of maps. I didn't even get to play the 5 or 6 custom maps that we had in the tournament. I just played ladder. And yeah, there were some weird things about the tournament itself. Like, the 4 players were seeded. So the way they did seeds is from ladder ranks. But the 4 players were seeded already, so they could just not play the ladder at all, and they could just grind in custom games and get like practice and strategies developed there, so nobody sees it. Again, did not affect me. I just thought it was weird from competitive point of view. It's like, if this is a qualifier for a tournament, why are you're seeding some players from the ladder, but then you're giving 4 players top seeds already? It, to me, is a bit weird, especially because it's retold, so it's a new game, right? But again, didn't affect me, so I don't really care. Regarding the game itself, I found the game very fun to play. So I would, if you haven't played AoM, I definitely suggest you to try it out and play it out. I think a lot of the powers are fun. I think even though you play like Zeus or Hades or Poseidon, it's like weird. You can play them the same way, but also you should play into their strength. So it's like, if you're Zeus, you can make cavalry, but if you're Poseidon, you should definitely make cavalry, because a lot of the bonuses that Poseidon has is for cavalry. So you kind of are playing this game where if you pick Poseidon, you should go for cavalry, but then the opponent kind of knows that, so maybe you don't need to commit to cavalry. So there's a lot of that. From strategy point of view, again, initially I was overwhelmed with the amount of info, but the game right now, from me watching the tournament, not playing, is kind of what I mentioned earlier. It's make units in second age, get an advantage, age up, and then age 3 god powers are very strong and can end games. So if you're already ahead, you can just end game by aging up, upgrading your units, using your god power, and the game ends. And a lot of the games in the tournament in the top 8, top 4 ended like that. So the meta right now is that. I don't know if that's good or bad for the game. I'm not to decide that. There's been some strategies with 2TC and Egyptians rushing age 3, but in general, that's how the game plays out. And I'm not sure what the developer's plan is to balance or change in the game. I think it would be great in order to prevent these power spikes. I think the one thing I would do, I'm not going to talk about specific units, what I would change and whatever. Again, I don't know much or enough about that. I think the aging up into just using an ability on the enemy is very frustrating. Or I had games where I'm winning a fight, I'm killing his units, and then he ages up, uses God Power, and kills all my units, right? I found that extremely frustrating. And then when I win with something like that, it's like, it's funny, but it feels like I pressed the button and won. And there's not a lot of counterplay to it. So what I would personally do is whenever you age up, there should be a cooldown of 30 or 60 seconds before you can use your ability that you just aged up with. So if you aged up with the pigs, this thing right here, you guys curse. If you age up to age 3, you should not be able to use it immediately. The opponent should have a choice of counterplay, as in, you're fighting, you age up, opponent's like, oh shit, he aged up, he has curse. Let me retreat, let me split my units so my big heavy units don't get cursed. Right now, it's like we're fighting, he ages up curse, he curses all your cavalry and you lose the game. And it's like, okay. It doesn't really feel good at all to me, that part of the game. Some of the god powers, let's talk a bit about balance. Some of the god powers are absolutely broken, while others are absolute garbage. And the god powers heavily dictate which gods are actually good and which are not. So for example, Ra is considered the worst god right now. And the reason it's considered the worst god is because the god powers are terrible. There's no synergy between them. Like you have teleport, which sounds cool, but other gods have like thing to fuck up half your army. You know, so it's like, okay, cool, you can teleport, but you lose half the army, so you don't gain a lot of value. There's some passive stuff that's OP, I think. Obviously, they just released it, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of balance patches, but the game is far from balanced state. So I think there's a lot of frustrating moments in the game because of this. Like in AoE4, I'll compare it to AoE4 or pretty much any RTS game. When you get ahead by killing villagers or you win an engagement, you can kind of push that advantage. A lot of AoM to me felt like I killed a lot of villagers and then he aged up and he did something to my army and then the game is upside down and now I'm losing. And it again, to me, it's just like, it hurts my brain that an RTS game works like that. I compared it to like, imagine playing CSGO and you're 1 versus 5 and then there's like a chance you find a box that kills 3 players. And it's like, technically you're not finding an age up here, but it's just random and it doesn't add like, ooh, I outplayed him. Like if I have 10 cavalry units and he has nothing left and then he ages up and he curses all my cavalry and then I have nothing left to play with, it doesn't feel very satisfying. It feels kind of dumb in my opinion. So not because the god powers are the way they are, it's just there's no counterplay, there's no indication that the opponent is aging up. In AoE4, when the opponent is aging up, they're aging up with a landmark. So you can see when the landmark is coming. You can counter it, right? There is a counterplay to it. You can prepare for it. In AoM, that doesn't happen. And I can see, like, a lot of the AoM community is very, like, I don't know what word to use, like moldy when I bring this up. They're like, no, you're wrong. There is counterplay. You just have to know. And then literally earlier, a top 3 player came into the chat and said it's fucking annoying that this stuff happens. So unless you're better than me and better than a top 3 player, then okay. I got this I'm not going to name names, but I got this same feedback from some of the AoE4 guys that have played AoM. They had literally the exact same experience and same opinion on these things that I'm giving to you guys. So I'm not here to argue or convince you that this is bad. I am giving you my opinion as someone that has not played AoM for 20 years. And I've talked to some AoE4 guys and they found all the things that I found fun. They found it fun, right? We understood it. We understand how the game is played. But these things with god powers and quick turns does not feel satisfying. The same way that StarCraft 2, like winning the game and then someone throws 2 storms and kills your whole army, that doesn't feel satisfying to me either. It feels like lame. I don't know how else to put it. It just feels shit. It feels bad and the losses are frustrating. Now, of course, if I had more knowledge and stuff like that, I am sure you can prevent some of those or minimize the damage. But if that was actually true, then why is Ra so bad? Why don't people just minimize the damage of the other god powers and win with it? They don't, because the god powers are shit and Ra sucks because of it. So while you can minimize the damage, some of the god powers you cannot, and they need to be nerfed. So yeah. On to the next thing. I thought the coolest part to me about AoM, is myth units. I think myth units are a fuck ton of fun. I think the fact that every myth unit has a unique ability or like does something different is really cool. I would say that is probably my #1 favorite thing in AoM. The myth units. The way they work. Another thing that I love is the fact that you can now reuse god powers. Because before it was a one-time thing, now you can reuse them with enough favor. I thought that was a great addition as well. But yeah, myth units are definitely the winning thing for me in AoM, because it makes the game very unique. It makes the gods very unique. It makes the minor gods that you age up very unique. Like if you age up with Anubite, you use it to harass. Sphinx you can kind of harass, but not as good as Anubite. So if you age up with what's his name, Anubis, the opponent will know that you're going to harass with these guys. So I think that part is really cool. Same thing, if you advance with, Nephthys, you know there's going to be Scorpion Man, and they're very good in the main fight, so you kind of have to prepare something against them. And I love myth units. The counter systems, I have mixed feelings about, because what I find weird is some units are hard counters to some units. But then those same units from another civ don't do shit. Like they're fucking trash. And again, I go back to, it doesn't feel very intuitive, and some gods just cannot deal with cavalry because they just don't have anti-cavalry unit that is good enough. So, for example, someone asked me this earlier. When you pick Poseidon, if you play a mirror, Poseidon is a cavalry civ, you cannot make spearmen because they're not good enough counter for you to win spearmen versus cavalry. So what you have to do is just also mass cavalry. You don't have an option. But then, if you played Odin versus Loki, if Odin spams horsemen, or cavalry, Loki can make spearmen because their spearmen from Norse gods are very good, and then Odin has to make the range units to counter the herdmen, which are I call them birdmen, which are the spearmen from Norse. They have to make it, so there's some kind of interactions, right? You make horses, I make spearmen. You make throwers, I either make throwers or I make myth units or I make cavalry myself. So there's an interaction there, and then there's some matchups like Poseidon Mirror where it's just fucking dumb, There's just like, you're just denting into each other, right? That's something I did not like. I understand why they're done that way, probably for balance reasons over the years and, patches, but it does feel a bit weird. Age 4 powers are probably, I would say actually Age 3 powers are the biggest power swing, but some of the Age 4 powers are absolutely fucking batshit insane. And then some of them are just like a wet fart. You kind of poop yourself a little bit, the opponent smells you and you smell like shit, but it doesn't really do anything. And then some of them, it's like, you just have a massive explosive diarrhea, not over the opponent's units, over their whole base and their units. And it's like, okay, guess I just lost everything, kind of thing. And I go back to the point, I don't have a problem with god powers being strong, I just wish there was a way to play against them by knowing that it's happening, or that they're about to do it, or AOE4 does this really well with landmarks. You can see the landmark being built, so you know what's coming. In AoM, you just kind of poof, you're fucked. Most notable, the meteor shower, right? They age up, there's a unit in your base, they meteor, they kill your TC, all your production, and all the farms you have, and it's like, okay, there's nothing I could have done against that, right? It's not like I could move my buildings. So those things I did not enjoy. What else? The water. The water. So AOE4 water is terrible, but in a weird way, I prefer that there's the melee unit that hits the boat. So in AOE4 you have a demo ship. In AoM you have the whacking ship. But a very similar thing happens like on land. The boats don't counter each other enough, so there's just this, the water battles, the boats are just whacking at each other, but they're not doing enough damage to actually kill each other. So the water battles are very weird, and to me the water in AoM is very weird and awkward. This is why. In AoE4, there's 3 boats and they counter each other heavily, and the water is very good. The economy in water is very good. You need to fight for it. If you fight for it and you lose the battle, you're probably fucked. It's like fighting over land and losing villagers equivalent. In AoM, the fishing is actually shit, but you have to do it anyway at the start. But you can also, once you do it, you can actually just give up and make a town center. So then if the other guy doesn't get the memo, and I'm not talking about the top level play, I'm talking about like whatever play. If the other guy doesn't get the memo and makes ships, kills whatever little fishing you have, but he went double TC, then he is ahead. Which to me is like weird. Maybe it's because I'm coming from AoE4, I am not sure. Because it's like you have to go for it, but at a certain point you can just give it up, right? So I've had games where I gave up and I won, but I've had games where I won the water and I still fell behind right after that. So I'm like, what is the right move? I don't know. So to me that was a bit weird. I like the fact that there's no demo ships like instant explosion, but I do wish that at least the ships did more damage to what they're supposed to counter, because I do think the water battles are a bit slow. And then the myth unit comes in water and it just fucking shits on everything. Like H3 myth units in water just butcher everything. So again, it's like rock, paper, scissor, and then there's a fucking sledgehammer that just kills everything. Like, why do we have myth unit in the water but you don't have anti-myth unit in the water? It's a bit weird. But I do like the part I do like about fishing. Again, I find it weird, which is not necessarily a bad thing. What I do like about fishing is H2 fishing is not that good. You have to do it, but it's not that good. But once you go H2, H3 and 4, once you upgrade fishing, it becomes good again. Your points are very good, but some are because of not enough knowledge. I mean, if I didn't have enough knowledge and I reached top 30 in the world, at what point do I understand it, though? When I become top 3 player in the world? Do you know what I mean? Again, I think people have been playing for AoM. All this that I'm talking about is like, what is he talking about? Because you've been playing it for 20 years. I'm giving you perspective from someone that's new to the game. If I am struggling with all these things after playing RTS games for 30 years, half of my life for living, have 100 hours and still are not understanding a lot of things, then maybe that's a problem, right? But again, it's just an opinion. It's like, but everyone's got one, right? It's nothing to agree or disagree. So yeah, water is interesting. Trade, to me, is crazy. And I'm just going to say that. Very against how they did the trade. So, to just give you a comparison, in AoE4, the trade cost, trading units, or caravans, whatever the fuck, they cost wood and gold. Because they give you infinite amount of gold. Right? They should be expensive. In AoM, the traders cost 100 food and 20 wood. I think that's the cost. Someone can correct me this. 100 food and 20 wood, which to me makes no sense. Why does a unit that gives you infinite gold cost food and not gold? So on water, what I also experienced is if you win the water, you can just make like 5 markets and just crap out caravans for trading immediately, right? Again, this is something to me that's just kind of weird / funny. Every single unit in the game requires gold, but the unit that prints gold does not require gold. Another thing, and this is just how AoM is, I personally don't like this. I don't like that there's no trash units. So for those that don't know, trash units refers to units that do not cost gold. I understand the point of every unit, or I understand why every unit in the game costs gold, but, and I'm not talking for this at my level, I'm not talking this for me, but if you're playing the game and your second gold gets blocked by the enemy, the game's over. It's just over. You cannot come back by making, you know, spearmen that cost food and wood like in AoE4 or archers or whatever. You're out. You can make a market and you can sell some wood and food, but you can't really afford too much. So I find it a bit weird that there's no unit that costs no gold. Some myth units cost, for example, food plus favor or wood plus favor, but yeah, I'm not sure how I feel about that. This might come from me playing AoE4 and the fact that, you know, even in StarCraft, not every unit requires gas. Some units just require minerals. As good as it is, because it promotes active gameplay and it promotes an active goal to stop in order to starve out your opponent. So aka, if the opponent runs on a golden main, all you gotta do is check out other golds and push there, and the opponent won't have gold, and then they're fucked. As cool as that is, and I think it's also good for the gameplay, at the same time it's a bit weird. So I don't know where I stand with that. So AoE has this in 2 ways, but one of the ways is impossible, basically. AoE4 has 2 ways to win, other than eliminating your opponent. One is Sacred Sites, which I think is a very good addition to Age of Empires 4. Or addition. It had it since the start, but I think Sacred Sites are amazing in AoE4, because if you cannot finish the game, you can capture Sacred Sites and you can win the game. Another one is Wonder in AoE4, which you capture or build, and after 15 minutes, if the opponent doesn't destroy, the game is over. But in one-on-one, it's basically impossible to go for Wonder. Now in AoM, there's 3 ways to end the game. One is killing your opponent. 2 is making a Titan, which is actually not expensive at all. It just requires a lot of villager idle time in order to build it. And it's probably the coolest way in any RTS game to end the game. You get this massive fucking Titan that is basically like shits on everything and is extremely hard to kill. You need hundreds of units to kill it. So if you have any army following the Titan, you're winning that game, and the opponent gets a notification when the Titan starts building. So I find the Titan concept very cool, and a very cool and good way to end the game, right? Titans can also walk on water, which is fucking cool. You can only really go for Titan if you're ahead. You cannot just like rush age 4 and make a Titan and win. You're gonna fucking die. So I love that about AoM as well. I think that's great. And then there's Wonder, which I actually have not had a Wonder game yet. So Wonder in AoM is different. When you make a Wonder, you basically age up to age 5. And I think your units get buffed, your units get like bigger, and they get better stats. And you can use your god powers for cheaper or something and more often. So it's like, it's kind of like Wonder in AoE4, but instead of defending a Wonder, you're age 5, which, you know, doesn't exist, and then you just fucking, everything is stronger and you can just end the game. So again, if you're like super far ahead and you have so many resources, but you're just too dented to end it, sometimes you're all dented to end games in situations like those, you know, you just pop a Wonder and you just fucking crap on it, which again, I think is a great way to end games. And I like that there are 2 different ways you can end games. So I think that's a big plus. And I also think that Titans in team games are probably... I haven't played too many team games. I think I played 2. I think Titans in team games are a lot of fun. I'm assuming. Maybe they're frustrating. I don't know. I haven't played enough. But it's like a few, 3, 4, 5 Titans fighting each other. They're fucking jumping. They all look different and all that. And I think for casuals, having Titans is really cool. Now, one of the downsides that I found funny, that I haven't even considered, I saw this 2 days ago on Reddit. Someone was complaining about this god power. You guys can see it. It's Fimbulwinter. It's age 4. I can move it actually like this. Right here. And I saw this thread and I was like, what the fuck? This shit sucks. It's like fucking terrible. And then I opened the thread and I realized the guy's talking about team games. And I was like, oh fuck. So what this does is it spawns wolves around any town center on the map from the enemy. So if you're playing 3v3, when you press this, it obliterates not one dude, it fucking kills everyone's villagers at every town center of the map. Which I found funny because this ability, again, is terrible in one-on-one, but it's super strong in team games. And apparently some of the abilities in team games are very, like, oppressive because it hits multiple players or it affects multiple people at the same time. So there's a lot of, like, weird cheeses where people rush this and they just fucking use it and they kill half the shit on the map, right? So I found that interesting. I don't know if that's a positive or negative, but I think again, doesn't affect me, just an observation. I think something like this should probably be looked into in the future, because this kind of thing, I would imagine, is very annoying and frustrating for casual players, where, they're building their town centers, they're fucking, building their farms, and then this guy uses the ability and not only fucks you, but it also fucks your 2 other allies, and it's just a massive advantage, swap back and forth. Now I want to talk about something that a lot of AoM players and community probably hates me for and very much disagrees with me, but let's talk about my favorite topic, the autoqueue. I have not used autoqueue, okay? I have not used it at all. Simple reason is, once I go back playing AOE4, I don't want to get used to the game playing for me. I want to maintain, being able to build villagers. So I did all my villager building in AoM. I built villagers from TCs. I built fishing ships. You can queue up fishing ships and villagers to be on autoqueue. For those that don't know, there's an option in the game you press, and basically you don't need to make villagers at all. It's just making villagers for you throughout the whole game. Now, AOE4 community hates me for this too, because I was one of the only people who wants the autoqueue in AOE4. I want the villager autoqueue in AOE4. I would love if that was added. And I was always up for this, and I got a lot of shit in AOE4 for saying this, because people were very against it. On the other side, in AoM, people are very for it. So you're probably wondering, so why am I for it in AOE4 but not in AoM? Well, I think having villager autoqueue is the best thing for casual players. I absolutely think it's the greatest thing for casual players, autoqueue. It's the greatest. It allows people to chill, to play with their friends, to focus on the battles, to use their god powers, to fucking run around the map. They don't have enough APM. You know what I mean? I love it. For casual players, bro, autoqueue, I hope it's added to AOE4 one day. I would love it. What is my problem with autoqueue? My problem with autoqueue is at the competitive level. I think autoqueue in AoM is great. Keep it. Keep that shit. I think that autoqueue should either be a disadvantage or disabled in pro play. 100%. And I will explain why. That I haven't seen a lot of people bring up, that I gave it a lot of thought. And I gave it a lot of thought how it affects the game. Stay with me on this, okay? There's a lot of discussion. And the most often one I hear is, having autoqueue allows you to make a more in-depth strategic choices. In order to mindlessly click villagers, you are on the map and making choices on what units to build and microing and all that. What my proposition for AoE4 is, in AoE4 you build a villager in 20 seconds. My proposition is add autoqueue and put it to 21 seconds. That's it. Put the autoqueue in game and make it 1 second penalty. Why? Because it will be great for casuals. A casual player cannot make villagers consistently. Let's be honest. A casual player cannot fucking make villagers consistently for shit. So a 1 second penalty wouldn't do anything for or wouldn't damage the gold or platinum or diamond player economy at all. It would improve it greatly. And it would add to their experience where they can go around and play with their units and use their god powers or use their cavalry or whatever to fuck around and play with. This becomes a problem once you reach higher levels. Once you reach a top 100, you cannot use autoqueue because 1 second will delay your economy quite a bit over time, so you're going to have to play manually. That's what I want for AoE4, and that's what I hope they do for AoM. They probably won't because the AoM community is very used to autoqueue, and the top players are all using autoqueue, so why would they want the game to become harder for them? It doesn't make sense, right? So I think it's too late for AoM, but I'm still going to talk about it. If they ever add it to AoE4, I will strongly oppose if they ever make it without any penalty, because to me that is crazy. Now, you are wondering, why is that? Let me tell you. A great RTS player is not a player who clicks the fastest. A great RTS player is not the player who macros the best. A great RTS player is not the player who micros the best. A great RTS player, the greatest RTS players, are the players who can use their actions the most efficient way possible. It's not just decision making. It is decision making, but you have 5 seconds. What are you going to do in that 5 seconds? Are you going to defend, attack, research, make a villager? And the greatest RTS players can, in 1 second, decide, prioritize. They can go 1, 3, 4, 5, 2. Boom. That's what separates the greatest from a Pepega. Because you don't have enough time. There's a lot of things happening, so you have to prioritize your attention. Your attention in an RTS is the greatest skill that you can have. Because you cannot do everything at once. That doesn't exist. That's a bot. That's an AI. A human can only do so many actions in a second, right? Doesn't matter if that's 200, 300 actions per minute. So you have to prioritize. If you're getting raided and you're raiding an opponent and you have for an age up, you have to make a choice. You cannot do all 3 things at the same time. You have to prioritize. Okay, I'm about to lose 2 villagers. The enemy is supposed to lose 5. I'm going to make sure I get the 5. I can let my 2 die and I'll delay my age up. That is all done very quickly. That is, you're quickly making decisions and you're quickly processing which decision is the most efficient for you, which decision is the best for you to come out on top. And you see this all the time. You see it in pro level StarCraft. People losing units on one side, but they're getting great trades on the other side. That's not an accident. They chose to micro that battle instead of this battle, right? That's what greatest RTS players do. So why is villager autoqueue a problem? One of the greatest and most fun things about RTS games is coming back into the game. Do you know what autoqueue does to coming back into the game? It nullifies a lot of it, actually. Because, let's say I am 10 villagers behind. In AoE4, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm 10 villagers behind. I know I'm behind, right? I gotta do something. So what I'm gonna do, right? You're just economically fucked. Let me open up a paint. This is what I'm gonna do. My opponent's base is here. My base is here. How do I come back, chat? Do I fight army versus army? That doesn't get me back into the game. Right? I'm economically behind, so if you trade armies, that's a worse trade for me. So his army is here. My army is here. The best way to come back into this game is split your army, split your army, and try to hold this position against his army. That way, you go around and you try to pick off villagers. Why is autoqueue a problem? The autoqueue is a problem because it nullifies these actions. Again, one of the skills in RTS games is forcing your opponent to make mistakes, okay? This happens very often. I do this all the time in AoE4. A lot of players in all RTS games, when they're behind, you start basically overstimulating opponent's brain. You start harassing everywhere. There's pings on the map. I'm attacked there, I'm attacked here, I'm getting fucked there, I'm getting fucked here. So what does that do? That splits their attention. And we go back to what I was talking about earlier. Splitting their attention means they will have to choose. Am I pushing here? Am I getting upgrades? Am I running away with the villagers? Or am I making the villagers? You cannot do everything. By having the game have auto queue, you remove part of that. And you coming back into the game becomes a lot harder because their macro is perfect. It's not slipping up at all. There's nothing that you can do to prevent him gaining villagers. This happens in AoE4 Pro games all the time. Watch AoE4 games. This happens all the time. The moment someone gets pressured on multiple fronts, chaos everywhere, they slip up. 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds, they slip up once. 30 seconds later, they slip up another 5 seconds. They slip up another 5 seconds here on double TC. They just lost a villager because you were raiding them. You didn't kill any villagers, but you raiding them and forcing them to multitask made them lose a villager. Now you're 9 villagers behind, not 10 anymore. In AoM, this is not a thing because autoqueue is perma on and it just fucking shitting villagers and you cannot come back into the games as easily as any other RTS. This is why I have a problem with autoqueue. For only competitive play, I don't give a fuck about, I think autoqueue should be in for casuals, 100%. I do not like autoqueue for top level play. That's intended because AoM wants shorter games. If you have such a strong advantage, you effed up and lose next game. I'm sorry, that's dumb. You're saying the moment one person gets ahead, your autoqueue should carry you to victory? No, it shouldn't. There should be a way for the opponent to come back into the game. There should be a way to come back into the game. And autoqueue removes a lot of that. Autoqueue is not about mindless clicking your queue to make a villager every 15 seconds. Autoqueue is about choosing what you're going to click. That's what it's about. And this is why I don't like autoqueue, and I don't think it should be in competitive play. That's the only reason. Again, I'm a huge proponent for autoqueue, even in AoE4. What is the issue? Just give it a 1 second penalty. Let the casuals fucking enjoy. But this, in my opinion, is wrong for top level play. And again, I know nobody from AoM community is going to agree with me. That's fine. Because the community is used to autoqueue, villager autoqueue. They're not going to change their mind. And I'm not trying to change your mind. I'm giving you my reasons for why I dislike it so much. There's another thing in AoM that I haven't mentioned. There's a pre-queue upgrades. Now this is an interesting one. And this might come as a shock. I am actually fine with pre-queuing upgrades. And I'll explain why. I didn't actually use it because I always forget that that's a thing when I'm playing the game. This is why I think pre-queuing upgrades is okay. So in AoM, when you... I'll just start a game and show you guys. I think it's easier than trying to explain what pre-queuing upgrades means. So pre-queuing upgrades has its disadvantages. It is not only an advantage. And that's why it's okay. So, pre-queuing upgrades. So, this is how auto-queue works, by the way. That's it. It just makes villagers for you. So, what is pre-queuing upgrades? So, what you can do is... Let's say I don't have enough resources for this, right? You see, I need 120 wood. So pre-queuing in AoM, you right-click this, and the moment you have enough resources, it will research it. Why do I like this, and why do I like it? Because, number one, you actually need to press it. You need to make a decision. Maybe you're missing 10 gold, maybe missing 10 wood. You're gonna pre-queue it just to get it when it's done, right? So you don't have to double check. That's fine. There's a disadvantage to it. If you pre-queue too many things, you're gonna clog up your production for military because you're just fucking researching upgrades non-stop. So it's not like you can't do this, okay? You cannot just like pre-queue everything in the game as you're aging up. That doesn't work because it's gonna use up a lot of your resources. That's a disadvantage to the game, right? It doesn't pick a perfect moment to research it. It's using up your resources the moment you can. So for example, if I'm aging up right now, I'm aging up and I want this to be researched immediately. You are making a conscious decision by saying, click, I want this research when I age up. And the only difference is when you age up, it will research it immediately. You made that decision. You did not make shit for the auto queue villagers. Right? Also, disadvantages if you're taking into the first to get the res for second, it will overtake the first and cancel the second. I didn't know that. I love that. Again, that's a disadvantage. Great for casual players. And even for pro level play, I've seen this used a lot. A lot of pro level players use this. But there are disadvantages to doing this. So what Donardi is saying, if I'm understanding, if I queue this, it's researching. If I get enough resources for this, it will overtake this and it will start researching it. That is a disadvantage. You are fucking yourself by auto-queuing too many things or auto-queuing upgrades at the wrong time. But again, you are making the decision, which is what matters. And there's a disadvantage behind it. So some of them you can pre-queue and it's good. Some of them you will actually fuck yourself by doing it. It's not a good thing to do. And that's why I am all up for pre-queuing upgrades. I personally like it. I did not use it at all. Not because I was like against it or something. I genuinely just forget that it's a thing. Because I'm just not used to it, right? But I do like that it does exist. So, I don't think this is... I don't know if it's applicable to AOE4, so I'm not saying that this should be in AOE4, this should be in every game. I'm saying I like it in AoM. I think it's a great addition for top level players in a balanced way, and it's amazing for casuals as well. Casuals float resources all the time, so instead of floating resources, look, I'm gonna research this, I'm gonna show you in a second. I think it's a great way to help the casuals, again, relieve some of that macro that they're struggling with and use up their resources. I think that's great. Fucking love that. I am a friend of the casuals, okay? Yeah, it also removes the frustration of like, you know, you need 40 food and it's like, you have 30 and you're like waiting for you to get fucking 10 more food and then you gotta go and click the villagers and drop off and then click it again, right? That also removes that. So if you're a casual player, let's say you research your upgrades, you're aging up, you know, you're not doing much, you go to your thing, you go boom, 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 and that shit is gonna eat up your resources if you queue up these, and if you queue up another upgrade here and another upgrade here, that's gonna eat up your resources for like 30-40 seconds, you cannot produce your army. But that's okay, because a casual player wasn't gonna use those resources efficiently anyway, so it doesn't make as much of an impact. It makes the game more fun for them. That's what I feel about that. And by the way, I don't even care if auto queue is on the ladder. I don't give a fuck. Even if it's in ranked, I don't care. I just care about it not being in tournaments. That's it. For AoM specifically. I don't care if it's in ranked game. Ladder is whatever. Ladder is not an indicator of skill at the top level. If I got rank 1 on the ladder, that doesn't mean I'm going to win a tournament, right? And if you're a top pro player, you're still going to use manual auto queue because you're practicing for tournaments. And in tournaments, it's not allowed. Let's say if it wasn't allowed. So you would still play manually, and then everyone else can use auto queue as much as I want. Don't care. I am for auto queue for everyone. Just not in tournaments. Even if they made it either just not allow it or make it 1 second penalty. I don't care. Either of those would be great. It's bad to have different behavior in ranked versus tournaments. Well, we already play different maps in ladder and tournaments, so I don't think it's a problem, to be fair. I think a bigger problem is having different maps on ladder than in tournaments, because then the average viewer doesn't understand what the fuck is that map I've never seen in my life. But again, that's just my opinion. Am I going to play AoM? Let's go for the big question. Am I going to go back to AO4? Am I going to go back to AoM? AoM was a lot of fun for me. First 7 days that I played was a lot of fun. I was learning. I was like, oh, what the fuck just happened? I was chill. And last 3 days, it was very frustrating for me. Very, very frustrating for me, the game. I did not enjoy. I enjoyed it. I did not enjoy it as much. And I thought about this yesterday. Why this is? I actually gave it a lot of thought. What happened there? And I think a lot of my enjoyment for the game was ruined. I will say the term ruined, because it was ruined, by the whole qualifier shenanza. The tournament, I'm going to use that word, the tournament was rigged from the start. As in, some players had massive advantage. Like in top 16, I think 15 or 14 players had access to alpha for 6 months. Ain't nobody going to win playing for 2 weeks against someone who's been playing for 6 months, right? That ain't happening. So the tournament was predetermined already. But because I made this a challenge, I did want to play anyway. But a lot of my enjoyment for the game was partially ruined because of that. But partially, I realized it was not only because of that, it was ruined because I was forcing myself to learn quickly. Now, if my experience with AoM was, yo guys, the game is out, the tournament is in like fucking 2 months, I would be playing Greek for probably a week or two straight, right? Like I would just play Greek for a week or two straight. I would try Hades 2 TC, I would try Hades 1 TC all in, I would try Minotaur all in. I was jumping from god to god to try absorb as much information from everywhere I could, because I did not have time. So Mista only wins if he has earlier access. That is not what I said. Don't be a little shit in the chat. That is not what I said. If you're too dented to understand what I said, then you might want to rethink. Mista would have won probably anyway. As in, if no one had access to alpha and we had 2 weeks to prepare, Mista would have probably won that. I think that's fair to say, right? But it's also fair to say that it was not equal playing field. Not for me. Again, I would not qualify. I would not qualify. It was not equal playing field for every player, and that's not okay. So, a lot of my enjoyment was actually ruined kind of by myself, because I'm one of the best players in AOE4, and I wanted to kind of show up for AOE4, and I wanted to do well and push myself. And every time I felt like I understand Greek god a little bit or Egyptian god, I'm like, okay, I gotta learn Norse now. Okay, okay, how do I deal with this? I gotta do this. Okay, how do I counter this? And I overwhelm myself quite a bit with all that information and with forcing myself and pushing myself to learn more, to play more, to trade more. And I didn't really play the game. I just learned for 2 weeks straight. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually told this to the streamer on the stream. I had headaches for like 4 days straight because there was so much information I was like absorbing in my head and learning. I legit had headaches. And I think me pushing myself ruined my experience with the release of the game. And I think I would have overall enjoyed the game way more if I took my time, right? If I took my sweet time, and like I said, I played Greek for 2 weeks and then Egyptians for 2 weeks. And then, you know, I was chilling and then I called Magic or I called Mist and they give me some coaching. I would love that way more. But that's my fault. You know, I could have taken it easier, but I went ham. So I realized probably did not help the whole situation. So, that being said, the balance of the game to me, and obviously I am comparing it to AOE4, which AOE4 has been out for 2.5 years, or 2 years, 3 years, I don't know how long. So it's not a fair comparison. This is not a fair comparison at all. AOE4 is a lot more competitive in terms of balance. I don't mean in terms of player skill or strategic depth or whatever. In terms of balance of units and gods, AoM is right now a mess. And I'm sure it's going to get improved, and I'm sure it's going to get better. Yesterday, after a qualifier, I ended up like being alone for about 2 hours when Reika went to bed, and I gave this a lot of thought. What do I want to do? What is the reason I want to do X or Y? And I wanted to quit AoM and not play it again. Because with the whole patch during the tournament and the alpha shit, I was just kind of over it. Like,
Much love, cutie.
I was just like, fuck it. You know, I CBA, basically. I can't be bothered. I'm just gonna go play AoE4 and I'm gonna chill. And I know, and I knew that there will be AoM tournaments coming. So I knew that I could practice AoM and prepare for the next tournament that I would have more time for. But I was like, do I want to do that? And why the fuck would I want to do that, right? There's a lot to learn. It's kind of comfy at AoE4. In the current state of both games, I think AoM is more fun because it's new, but AoE is more fun to me competitively because it's more balanced and it's more... It makes sense more. Let me put it that way. So I slept on it, and I was ready to not play. I slept on it, and I was going to stream AoE4 tomorrow all day and just go back to AoE4. There's going to be some tournaments in AoE4. There's the Outback Octagon that's happening, which is the FFA tournament. And there will be a massive, massive patch in AoE4. I don't know when, but the next patch in AoE4 is very big and very good. And I'm going to be honest, a lot of people suggested, why don't you split time 50-50? I'm not going to do that, right? Because if I play AoE 50% and then AoM 50%, I'm going to end up being like a top 8 or top 16 player in both games. And that's just me, like, I might as well not play competitive at all. I might as well just skip tournaments and just do content creation, right? So, what I've decided to do... I'm going to take a break. From streaming. And I am not memeing. But the break is not long. Marika and I rented a house by the lake. And we're going to go with our dogs Thursday and Friday. And, you know, she was like, why don't you just take a few days and just think over it, see how you feel. And I said, you know what, that's a good idea. So this is what I'm going to do. I feel like if I play AoM tomorrow, I'll still have that fucking moldy feeling about the situation. So this is what I'm going to do. 2-day break. Bro, 2-day break for a chronically online person with no computer is like 4 weeks for a normal person. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm addicted. So this is what I'm going to do. Right now it's Sunday evening. I'm going to stream AoE4 on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'm going to stream AoE4. I'm going to see how I feel. I'm not going to lie. I'm honest with you guys, right? For one moment, I was like, what if I go back to AoE4 and I don't fucking like it? I was like, what if I say I'm quitting AoM and then I go back to AoE4 and I don't like it? And I'm like, oh fuck, what do I do now? That crossed my mind. So this is what I'm going to do. For real now. I am playing AoE4 Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. I'm going to be getting rank 1 back. I think I'm rank 3 now. I let the chickens run around the... What's the saying? I let the chickens run around the coop too long. I'm going to get rank 1. And I'm going to take around the farm. Whatever. You know what I meant. Thursday and Friday, We're taking the car, we're taking the Gigi Dog and Maracita, aka Otter Totter and Maracita. We're gonna stay at the lake for 2 days. I'm coming back Friday evening, and then Saturday, I think I will know what I'm going to do by the end of it. There's two options. I'm not quitting AOE4, by the way. That's not happening. Like, AOE4 quitting is not happening. There's two real possibilities that are going to happen. Then until end of this year, there's not going to be any tournaments that I need to prepare crazy amounts in AOE4 for. So this is what I'm going to do. Or these are my two options. Option number one, fuck AOM and go back to AOE4. Option number two, play AOM and AOE4. Maintain my skill in AOE4 for the next month. Play games, create content for YouTube. My YouTube is still very AOE4 focused. But practice for the next AOM tournament. And not try to play, not try to participate. I'm going to try to win it. And then, once I'm done with that, I am most likely going to shift back to AOE4 to prepare for the next AOE4 tournament. The option of me quitting AOE4 is not there. I am not quitting AOE4. So the question is whether I'm just going to go back to AOE4, do content creation for a month, or whenever the fuck till the next tournament is where I need to prepare. Or I'm going to do AOM, try to win that tournament, and then go back to AOE4. There is some crazy world, like an option 3, where I'm just going back between AOM and AOE4. I would imagine that would be very hard to balance. So I genuinely don't know if that's even possible. Maybe for the challenge. Again, I like challenging myself. I'm very focus heavy person. Like when I have a goal, I wake up every day, I do my thing, I hang out with Mareka, you know, whatever I gotta do. But my goal is that day to get better, you know, to improve or to do something that I have a goal for. And it'd be kind of a cool goal to try to get rank 1, even if it's on the ladder. It's just a fun goal in both games at the same time and try to hold that. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. And the reason why I'm yapping so much is because I'm just giving you guys, like literally not only my opinion on these things, but I'm giving you everything that I've been thinking about and why I've been thinking about these things this way and what my thought process is, so you can hopefully understand why I made X or Y decision. How do you feel about AoM Future in general? Again, I'll be brutally honest. AoM popularity will go down. Right now, there's a lot of big streamers streaming it with like 4 or 5k viewers, streaming campaigns, streaming this, streaming that. From what I know, there is not a lot of one-on-one ranked players compared to the other AoE games. AoM Retold is not going to die. It's going to do way better than Woobly or OG AoM or whatever the fuck did. It's going to do way better than that. I don't think it will overtake AoE4 or AoE2 in numbers and in Twitch numbers, and I don't think it will overtake it in player base. But it doesn't need to, right? It doesn't need to. And I think a lot of it is going to depend on how fast they do the DLCs. The DLC is always a massive comeback for the player base, right? And I think if the next DLC is in like 3 or 6 months, there's gonna be momentum there. But if they do the next DLC in a year, it's not looking good, right? Doesn't mean the game, again, the game will not die. China DLC is confirmed this year? Really? That's great then. If that's the case, that's great. Yeah, that's great for the momentum. So that can pick up AoM again and do well. It matters a lot what the devs want to do with it. If they want to do constant updates, not balance necessarily content updates, I think AoM can do well and be somewhat on par with AoE and AoE4. I do think long term, like I'm talking 1, 2, 3 years, I do think AoE2 and AoE4 will have more players. And it's up to devs how long the momentum will hold. And again, I don't know, maybe they're going to add a whole different set of gods, you know, 2 years in. I don't know. But that's my genuine opinion. That's my genuine opinion, and I'm not saying this to like put down AoM or something like that. This is just what I think. I've been talking to some people. I've been looking at some numbers because I love, trying to learn about these things and know who the biggest YouTubers and Twitch streamers are and stuff like that. And that's kind of what I've gotten from all of that. Last time I predicted a game, I was spot on. I predicted Stormgate will not do well and it will massively plummet in player base within 2 weeks, and yeah. So yeah, I don't think AoM is gonna take like a plummet. It's gonna do really bad, but the player base will go down. But I do think AoM Retold will do a lot better than the original versions. They fixed a lot of stuff that original game had, right? But I will say, again, just being honest, AoM Retold has a metric shit ton of bugs and problems right now. That me as someone who's objective, like I don't mean this in like I'm a big shot guy, but I can quit this game today and just go back to A4. I'm chilling, right? I'm saying this as someone who is not coked up on hopium and nostalgia. Being realistic, the game has a lot of bugs. A lot of pathing problems, a lot of bugs, a lot of things that are shit's getting stuck. Like, that has to be fixed. And I'm saying this as someone who's played AoE4 in release and it was fucking awful. And AoE4 release has bled many players to its awful release. And AoM will suffer the same fate if these things are not fixed. By the way, I said the player base will like go down a bit but still will hang around. This is assuming they fix these bugs. If they don't fix the bugs, it will get very annoying for a lot of people very soon. So I hope they fix it very quickly. By the way, I am not one of those people who's like, I fucking hope AoM dies because people are gonna go back to A4. People who think that are straight up idiots and morons. Success of one RTS game is also a success for another RTS game. Something that you guys may have not known. Since AoM Retold release, the player base of AoE2 and AoE4 has only dipped like 300 average players. Which means that all the players from AoM are other games, or AoE2 and AoE4 players, or old players or just brand new players. And if we have more and more players in age games, people will be more inclined to, oh, let me try AoE4. Let me try AoE2. People who are like, I hope AoM or AoE2 or 4 fails, so my game gets players, is a moron. A straight up idiot. I don't know what else to call those people. They're fucking tools. Success of AoM will only bring more players to age genre. It will bring more players to AoE4 and AoE2. So, yeah, we should promote each other's games, and we should help each other's games, and streamers and players should collab, not fucking be like, oh, I hope this fucking game dies. Only losers do that. Age games are the most popular, like, competitive RTSs right now, as a whole genre out there. And people should stick together. Like, this whole AoM versus AoE2 versus AoE4 is fucking cringe. I'm not gonna lie. Like, get yourselves together. Like, most of us are 30 years plus. Like, we're not fucking 12. So that's what I have to say about that. And listen, I know there's a lot of... I've been looking through my chat throughout this whole speech that I gave, and a lot of people were fucking basically spitting on me for, God forbid, criticizing AoM or going against Village or AutoQ. It's okay. You're AoM fanatic, and, you know, whatever I say is just gonna go through one of your ears and just end up in the other one because there's nothing in between. I mean, I can't help you with that. If you can see that I'm giving some legit constructive feedback to the game and to the devs and just giving my personal experience with the game, I don't know what to tell you. But then again, those people are probably the same people who are like, I hope fucking AoE4 dies so we get more players. I think I covered everything. I think I covered fucking everything. This is a long rant and a long video. But I think I got it all covered. I'm trying to think if there's anything else, but I don't think so. So what I do want to say, last words, I will know more Friday evening, and Saturday you will see me and we will know where we're at. If I am playing still AoM after that, I will be doing probably some AOE4 streams with AoM practice specifically. AOE4 will be more content related, FFAs, guides, stuff like that, and I'm going to play some ladder games to maintain my skill. AoM streams are going to be purely practicing for tournaments. So again, if that's what I do, if that's what you want to tune into, you're more than welcome. But I do want to say, even if I decide not to go with AoM, I don't plan to just like disappear cold turkey. I'll probably do one last AoM stream if that's the case, just to kind of say my goodbyes, because a lot of you guys, even now in the chat, are new viewers to my stream, and a lot of you guys have been watching a lot over the past 2 weeks, and I just want to say I appreciate you all. I'm glad you guys tuned in, and I hope you enjoyed the journey from someone from another game playing at a competitive level coming to AoM, trying to learn. You probably found a lot of things dumb or funny that I didn't know, because it's like, oh, this guy's playing fast and he's clicking well, but he doesn't understand this or that. So I hope you guys had fun. I hope you guys learned some things, found it entertaining. And I sincerely hope that no matter if you're from AoM or AOE4, I hope you try AoM. I hope you try AOE4. Fuck it, I hope you try AoE2, you know? You can play both games at the same time. I know that might be a shocker, but especially if you're playing for fun, you can play both games. And you could love both games. So, I urge you, if you're an AOE4 player, tune in tomorrow for AOE4. If you're an AoM player, tune in tomorrow to check out AOE4 with me. Come check out a game that I'm actually good at. You might enjoy it. You never know. It doesn't cost you anything. You might get permaban if you write something stupid, but that's about it. Just don't type and you'll be good. You know what I mean? You can watch some AOE4, you don't like it, you can leave. It's alright. You know, I ain't holding you. AoE3, oh yeah, AoE3 exists as well, guys. By the way, I forgot to mention. AoE3 also exists. AoE3 is like the middle child. It gets forgotten very often. So, any AoE3 gamers in the chat, rise up, all 7 of you. I'm joking. AoE3 has, did I say AoM3? I meant AoE3. AoE3 has a lot of players. There's like tens of them. Now there's more than that. There's thousands of AoE3 players, okay? RedBull doesn't know that AoE3 exists, but I know. I know. I've seen it. I haven't played it. Who has, right? But I have seen it. And again, I'm joking, guys. A lot of people play AoE3. We just like to goof a little bit. Anyway, if you're watching this on YouTube, I want to thank you for watching. Content creation on YouTube will maintain on the main channel, AOE4 related. If you want to check out some AoM gameplay and AOE4 gameplay, it's on Beastyqt gaming channel. YouTube gamers, thank you so much for watching. Probably no one made it till the end on YouTube. Not a lot of people made it through the end on Twitch either. But I appreciate you. I thank you, Twitch gamers. Let's keep going for another couple of minutes just to give my closing thought, not on this thing, but on the stream. Check me out tomorrow with another video. Twitch gamers, let's keep going.